Welcome to the Agency Journey Podcast, where we connect with agency leaders to uncover the hidden systems and processes that drive their success. Now, let's dive into today's show.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Agency Journey. This is Greg McKenzie from Zen Pilot. And this week, I've got the pleasure of bringing on Adam Rundle from CleverProfits. Adam, I am a current customer of Adam's. Client of Adam's? Customer? Customer sounds.
We would say customer. We would say client, actually, but you can say
right,
customer.
Right. So I'm excited. We'll dive into to what CleverProfits is, the CleverProfits story, what you guys are doing, our working relationship, all that good stuff. Adam, thanks for joining me, man.
Great. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Great to talk to you and share some thoughts with you and your audience. And thanks for being a client. Clearly, we're doing something right somewhere. Maybe we can chat about that at some point. That's a good thing to always know what to do well. But yeah, pleasure to be here.
So let's get a little bit of the backdrop, because obviously people listening are like, oh, he's not from Pennsylvania. Like, great. Wonder what's going on here. So your story, there's so many things I want to hear about, but give us kind of the backdrop and then how the accounting side of things and bookkeeping and kind of financial world came about.
So yeah, I'm definitely not from Pennsylvania. Born and bred South Africa, a little town called Pretoria. Well, not little, it's actually the capital city, but not many people know that. But Pretoria in South Africa. Then went down to the University of Cape Town, which is by far and away the best part of South Africa, on the coast. Studied there, studied accounting. And was very fortunate to get involved in a law firm as I finished college as an accountant, the way things happen in the world is always pretty incredible in reflection. But pretty big law firm, 150 people, old school leadership, or like old school partners and everything. And the guy who was running their finance, who was a lawyer, who was the head of their finance, when they transitioned out, they were kind of looking for someone. I met a guy, the rest is history. I kind of come in as this little whippersnapper, new dude on the block just to help them, and just really enjoyed the environment and was very fortunate to kind of grow over those 4 years with them pretty heavily. I was essentially the CFO and was sitting in the executive meetings and telling some of the guys who had been there for 45 years how much they can pay themselves and what kind of bonus they can take. It was kind of fun. And I just learned this. I learned the practical application of what I had studied, which was a lot of fun. And I think I got an incredible opportunity to do that in a unique way, and not just sitting at a big four firm working on like one small little part of finance. I kind of got to see the whole picture, and more importantly, how the picture translated to decisions. And I think that's why CleverProfits is what it is. It's why I am who I am, is because that's the part I enjoyed the most. Is anyone can run a P&L, anyone can reconcile an account, but it's what you do with it is where everything, that's the value. And so I got to experience that firsthand, which was a lot of fun. And then met my wife. We wanted to do something a little bit different. She's a South African as well. And she lived here in America for a year in 2014 to internship on Capitol Hill, blah, blah, blah. And we wanted to do something different, and we decided America would be fun. And so we moved to Annapolis, where she was from, where she spent that year. Incredible community of people. And I had to make some money. So I decided to start my own little accounting firm. It was called ABR Consulting originally. I'm pretty sure most people listening here would know about Conversions.ai, Dave Rogemoser. They were running a business called, before Proof actually, called Pivot and Scale and Entrepreneur Alliance. They were my first ever client. They used to live here in Annapolis, the three partners. And they got me connected to a lot of people, more clients, exposure. And then they ended up starting Proof, and then went off and did the whole SaaS thing and moved to Austin and stuff, which was awesome for them. And then just that grew and was happening. And then I met Bryan Nguyen, who's my business partner now. And he's the tax guy based out of California, and just realized like, hey, I can't do this without him. Like if I don't have a tax guy, I'm nothing. And then CleverProfits was formed. He had Clever Taxes was his business. So we stole his IP and his name and his logo and everything, and threw more of my clients in the ring, and we came together, and CleverProfits was born. And, now we're 35 people and, lots of clients and trying to change the world.
You guys, obviously there's a lot of similarities between what you do and what a digital agency, same type of client relationships, like P&L structure would look a lot similar between both. But you mentioned something there. It's kind of like a throwaway comment, not really a throwaway comment, but just a one-liner that's similar between you and me. But you can definitely see come out in the way that you live, which is focusing in on what decisions do people make off of that? What do you actually drive? What's the behavior that gets driven by the data that gets produced from the financial team? And you see that coaching part, like in everything that you're doing, even with some of the stuff that you're building out, kind of on the not the core CleverProfits business, but also from a coaching perspective, which transitions me into what I've really had you on to talk about for 30 minutes, which is rugby.
Everyone says that at some point.
you're still coaching, right?
I am. Yeah. Look, I missed over this because I'm an accountant now. I'm going to come forward as an accountant. My biggest desire growing up was to become a professional rugby coach, and I was coaching at a very high level in South Africa.
Your desire was to be a coach, not a player?
Yeah, coach. I was never really a good player, and I don't think I enjoyed the game. I played the game, but I love coaching. Coaching. I had this passion for coaching. I probably spent more money trying to become a professional rugby coach than I did to become an accountant. A lot of investment into that time in New Zealand, time in Europe, just a lot of time and effort. And realizing, and it's hard life. Is it really what I wanted? I don't know. It's still a question mark. I'm a young guy. Maybe anything can happen. But the transition from America to South Africa to America was a big realization that, hey, I've got to do something else. I can't just coach as much as I want to. And so that I think a lot of what I brought to my business world is that coaching element because I'm so passionate about it and I love it. And I think what you're hitting on is it's ingrained in me. I think anyone who's ever worked with me would say like, oh, you're a pretty decent coach. And that just because I've just done it for so long, maybe in a different context and learned how to do it in this context. But I coach at the US Naval Academy, which is fun, which is great. I have a lot of fun with that, heading to practice after this podcast, which will be fun. But nothing that active. I mean, it's more a hobby now than anything else.
I don't know. Your LinkedIn says attack coach. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, I'm the attack coach.
I have zero idea what that means. I mean, I would assume that's an offensive.
It's like an offensive coordinator,
right?
Like an offensive coordinator. But I mean, the relationship between rugby and football is very different. Football is a very different type of game. I have a ton of respect for it. And I actually find it hard in some ways to watch, but love watching it in some ways. Football is a lot more strategic, and so there's a lot more people involved in that world. Where rugby's a little bit more simplistic in that it's a lot more of a free-flowing game. So there's only 3 coaches. There's only 3 of us. We don't have a 15-man coaching staff. So an offensive coordinator is like managing players, team, personnel, depth charts. So it's like I just manage a group of guys on a field and put the ball to where you want it to be. I mean, that's kind of my job, man.
That's awesome. So when did you and Bryan get together?
You're going to tell me dates now. I can't remember the exact time. I mean, I think it was middle of 18.
Okay.
We had a mutual client and I just realized, okay, this is the kind of guy I want to work with. This is the kind of guy I want to do this with. And we just had awesome conversations from then. And the union was simple and easy.
And then the goal, because you guys have grown a lot in a short amount of time, was the goal similar from the beginning, or is this kind of organically evolved? Was it?
Yeah, I think the goal was, I don't know if we truly articulated the level of growth, and I don't know. I don't think we were probably a little bit surprised by the level of growth, to be honest. But we always knew that this was the vision, that we wanted to build something of decent size and decent impact. And our visions aligned there, and we work exceptionally well together. And it was, I've consulted many people on partnerships. It's my job. I'm CFO and help people think about partnerships and stuff like that. And I always have to remind myself that my real life experience with Bryan was like the easiest thing in the world. Like it was like 3 or 4 phone calls and we knew we wanted to do this and we just carried on. And some people don't have that experience. Some people it's a pretty painful experience at times. So just what I'm trying to say is like we were just so aligned. It was easy. It's like, yeah, we can do this. Let's go.
Right. So I'm going to describe what you guys do from the outside. So that, and then you can correct.
You'll describe it better than me, that's for sure. Because you experience it, I don't. I just on the inside.
So you guys start similar to what a lot of agencies do, but you guys start. You call it the Profit Accelerator, It's a 6-week program. It's actually a little bit different from what agencies are doing. Strategy is a piece of it, but you're doing a lot of historical, like catch-up bookkeeping, kind of get you up to speed in terms of where you are now, get the benchmark in place, and then form, okay, here's what needs to happen. Here's our recommendations. Where a lot of agencies, there's a little bit of time and attention spent on where your current marketing is, but most of the time,
Ideation.
I think there's a lot more forward-looking strategy and ideas than catch-up work. Not that you guys aren't doing the forward-looking strategy, but most agencies aren't doing as much in terms of, hey, let's go back and fix things as part of this. Then you move into what agencies think of as the retainer model, and that's where you guys are doing the bookkeeping and tax prep for clients. Has that been the model from the beginning, or did you guys start selling straight into the retainer?
Yeah, we started straight to retainer. I mean, originally, my first few clients were all just retainer, like, hey, how can I help you get better? And what we realized is we're a sticky service. Not everyone's looking for a new accountant every second day of the week, or a new doctor or a new lawyer. They relatively grudge purchases. No one's like waking up in the morning and say, I can't wait to pay my accountant today, or I can't wait to pay my lawyer. Like there's, it's that kind of world, and we're not naive. We know that that's the kind of world. And so the Profit Accelerator was designed to do two things. It was to give us an opportunity internally to really figure out whether we can help someone. And there lies the fundamental of the historical work. Like if we don't do the historical, we don't have a crystal clear objective view of what's happening in your business. Anything I tell you is going to be SH1T. Anything I can tell anyone how you can build a skyscraper. Anyone can do that. But can you do it based on your foundation and where you are and what you're doing? It's a different story. So there's that part. But then also the part that we realized for the client is this is a commitment they want to make, and they're not looking to have this. I think agencies are more disposable. People can kind of bounce around a little bit. They can have 2 or 3 different agencies in a year, and it's not that painful. I'm not saying it's not painful. It's painful, but it's not as overwhelmingly painful as having 2 or 3 different accountants. That would be excruciating. And so we just respectfully to people like, hey, we don't expect you to sign your life away. Like, just let's do 6 weeks. Like you're gonna get what you need anyway. Like you need the foundation, whether you think you need it or not. You have to have it. You're gonna get the strategy, which is gonna help you. You're gonna get a tax plan, which is gonna help you. But also you're gonna be like, hey, these are some Muppets. Like I don't want to work with them. Or you're gonna be like, hey, these guys are cool. Like I enjoy working with them. And I think that's a good way to start the relationship. I think it helps both parts.
This is a much more technical question, but why 6 weeks?
And
I know that's not like there's probably
there's 4 major deliverables. And so 4 weeks would be like cheap as you got to be really good because you can't miss up a week. And 8 weeks would be too long because you're twiddling your thumbs. So I think 6 weeks just feels like good buffer point, good time frame. And we say to everyone, it's 6 weeks, but it's really till delivery.
Right,
right. If it takes us quicker to deliver, we quicker to deliver. If it takes us longer, we'll communicate through that. But the time frame is roughly 6 weeks.
Right. Makes sense. That's awesome. On the back end, you guys is every client doing bookkeeping and tax prep?
So we have a couple of tiers. So our lowest tier, we've got like 3 tiers. The lowest tier is the compliance offer. So mainly just bookkeeping, accounting, and taxes with a monthly report from your account manager with little Loom videos saying, hey, this is what's happening, and access in Slack to kind of chat to us and your account manager and your team whenever you need them. That's kind of the lower tier. The next tier is more strategic, big emphasis on team growth, on you trying to grow your team, trying to hire people, build compensation structures, that kind of stuff. So we're looking, you have an account manager who you're going to meet, once every 2 weeks. So you're going to have a little CFO strategy call once every 2 weeks to get the lay of the land, what's happening. Normally weekly reports are sent out. And then everything else that's below that, obviously all their bookkeeping, accounting, and tax work is carried through. And then the top tier is the next level is at the executive level. So sitting as a CFO on your executive team. So yeah, we're looking at businesses who have an executive team. They have a CEO, COO, CMO. There's a group of 4 or 5 people sitting at the top every week, sitting in an executive meeting, making decisions. We will sit on as the CFO in that. And there's normally just more calls, more interaction with the team. So it's just a little bit more in-depth hands-on the business.
Very intrusive question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Feel free to decline to answer. I would assume in a business like that, that it's similar to any distribution where 80% or whatever the majority are on the lowest tier. And
Vast majority. I mean, I think we're on. I'm gonna lie to you now because I don't know the exact number, but I think 250 or something. I don't know how many clients, something like that. And I would say it's 15, 20 on the top end, maybe 50, 60 in the middle, and the rest of the bottom.
Right.
And I mean, our hope, and this is not sales talk, it's just our hope is that we move people along the cycle. Like, our hope is, hey, if you be smaller and just started, we want to help you go through the tiers and get to the top. That's helpful for us. Like, that's good for us, and that's also good for you. So it's all geared for that. I mean, it doesn't always happen, and that's neither here nor there, but that's the vision.
Yep. I haven't worked with a million accounting firms. We had Josh Bowerly on the podcast probably, I don't know, a year and a half ago, who's a good friend and accountant. Have you ever heard of the podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire?
Yeah.
Entrepreneur on Fire.
What's his name? The CPA on Fire. His name is John Dumas, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. That's the podcaster. So John Lee Dumas got super famous for, not super famous, I mean, in our very small niche.
Yeah.
He got famous for having a podcast every single day, doing these entrepreneurial interviews. Josh Bowerly, accountant, running CPA on Fire, cold emailed John saying, hey, love the podcast. You need some tax help, as he was going out on his own. And it wound up being perfect timing. So he got to deal with him. I did not know that at the time, but maybe a year or two later, I'd heard John on the podcast. We needed a new accountant. I cold emailed him. And I said, hey, your website's terrible. We need an accountant. You need a new website. So we wound up trading services back and forth for a number of years, where we do the marketing and web stuff and we do all of our financials and bookkeeping, which is helpful and funny. So anyway, that long story short, we haven't worked with a ton of different accounting firms, but you guys interface with your clients in Slack. So the cool thing is there's a monthly report. You send it with a Loom video each month. And obviously, depending on what tier of service you're on, it's monthly or weekly or whatever. But you've got Slack access. So you guys have these things that are, I'm going to assume more and more firms will move to this, but a pretty modern communication tech stack, at least with clients. Am I right that that's abnormal? And then has that been a piece of, I feel like that was undersold, and this might be positioning feedback. I feel like that was almost undersold to us.
I'm taking notes. What did I tell you?
Of the distinction, I guess, in communication styles between that and a number of past experiences.
Yeah, I think it also morphed itself. We were email originally, and I'm trying to rack my brain now to remember why we did this. I remember why we did the weekly report and the monthly report. That was also not a thing for a long time, and that started because I found it hard to keep up with all the clients. So originally, it was just me, and I had a small team of people, but I found it hard for me to keep up with where everyone was at. So what I did for 2 months is I just created a report for myself to know where people are. And then the guy on my team was like, why don't we just send this to people, because this is super helpful. And then the report was born, and now it's a massive part. So that was pretty cool. But then the communications, and that's part of the communication, is that helped us improve communication. And we don't think I'm not this clever. Okay, like I'm not that clever. Really. We didn't do the report to improve communication. We did it. We thought, that'll be helpful. But what it did do is it massively improved communication, because one of the biggest problems with accountants is lack of communication. And so the longer that the communication is, as long as there's a lack of communication, both parties, I mean, it's important for people to understand, both parties fail. Because you're a client, you're going, well, F this, like I need my stuff. Okay, I want to know what's going on. But I can guarantee to you that the accountant is gone so far that it's hard for him to even or her to deliver, because they're just so far without the know. And that was my problem. I was like, I can't keep up anymore. And so I created this mechanism for me to keep up, which now became better communication. So that was not born out of trying to be innovative, just born out of a little desire. And then I remember the Slack was just clients. Clients were using Slack. And we'll ask the question, hey, can't we just use Slack? And we're like, well, what is it? Let's try. I mean, we tried it and realized, like, yeah, if you want to, the age-old story, if you want to sell someone something, go to their world. Go into their world and be part of their world, and then you can sell to them. So if we want to serve our people, go into their world. Let's have a button next to their button on Slack, so that they don't make it easy for them. And I think it is pretty modern, I guess. But I would say imperative in the modern age. I mean, I feel like communication is key in our services. We're done for you, we're not done with you. We're done for you. Communication is key. We need to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on. It's symbiotic. We can't do our job if we don't know. You can't do your job if you don't know. So communication is huge. And we just had a creative project internally 3 weeks ago on how to improve communication on Slack because we don't feel like it's good enough. So yeah, great, we're on Slack, but we're still trying to improve that because I feel like it can always be improved because it's fundamental to our job.
I made a big point that I think every early service provider gets wrong, which is thinking silence is good. So if I don't hear anything, then things are good.
Yeah,
it's totally
and silence can happen, but don't let it come from you.
Right, for sure.
You make noise, you may get silence in return, but you keep asking the question. Don't stop asking the question. Ask for feedback. Ask for what do you need. Just don't stop because that's an important thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's switch over. I could ask you a million questions about the business and why it's great. I'm sure some of those will probably still sneak through. You guys work with a lot of online entrepreneurs, agencies, course creators, like people in the online education and agency service type space. And if I'm miscategorizing, feel free to clarify that. But common mistakes, kind of principles of what you guys apply, because similar to, so we've got this whole methodology when we're working with clients. Here's the way, and there was actually a ton of compatibility with kind of our framework for how businesses should run and your framework from another layer of detail on the financial performance side of the business. And you guys have a specific methodology, specific way of breaking down and categorizing work. So, but before we get to that, I guess, what are the common pain points that you see when people are coming to you? What are the common things that you have to go in and fix that you wish that agencies and similar businesses would just get right?
Yeah, I'll try and get you some concise answers. I think the first thing is the simplicity factor. I strongly believe in simplicity. Keep it simple. The very few things in the world need to be truly complicated. Very, very few things. And I'm not saying that, I'm not an absolute statement. There are things that do need to be, but very few things need to be. And I can tell you right now, finances does not need to be complicated at all. It can feel complicated and it can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't need to be. And we achieve that by key drivers. So what we identified is what are the key drivers to make any business work. So just focus on those. And I think the mistake that people are making is they're not focusing on those. That's the mistake. Is that there's too many sideshows. I often get on a call with someone and say, yeah, I just need to do my bookkeeping so I can file my taxes. And I would go, you do realize that that's like it's a 100% byproduct of your business, filing taxes. Important, fundamental, you can't not do it. You have to do it. And there's an obligation, so everyone freaks out about it. But it's a 100% byproduct. If your only interest in the world is to file taxes, please don't ever pay a bookkeeper. At the end of the year, take all your stuff, find someone on Upwork who understands accounting, lots of them, say, hey, can you please prepare my books for me? Give him a week, $500, they'll prepare your books for you, send it to your accountant, they'll file your taxes, and you'll carry on. Great. If you want to run a business so that you actually have taxes to pay, you're going to need that stuff every week. You want to know what's happening every single week. And so it's that focus point. What are you focusing on? That's just one of them. And the other ones are, hey, I'm focusing on, do I have the right software in play? And I'm going, who gives a shit about your software, buddy? You don't have an acquisition model. You don't have enough people paying you money. So forget about what software you have. Let's go find out how we can get more people to pay us money so we can actually have a business. Or I'm trying to think about whatever, and I'm not thinking about my team. You've got to, it's just a focus point. And it's understanding what is the focus point. And I've talk a lot about constraints and other stuff I do. Everything in the world is a series of constraints. You identify the most important one, you solve it, and you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one. And it's just hierarchying that. You just got to hierarchy that, and you got to get the hierarchy right, and you got to go and do it. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people are making is it's jumbled. They're putting the byproduct first. They're putting things that are really non-needle movers at all front of mind, putting a lot of time and effort onto an 80-20 principle. And they're just losing opportunity, losing out the ability to truly grow it and scale at the rate they want to.
Yep. Definitely see that. I mean, same thing in our world. Where we get people.
Yeah, for sure.
We just did a webinar earlier today with HubSpot talking about automation, kind of making HubSpot and ClickUp, the platform that we implement primarily on, work together. And then please don't try and keep automating this stuff until you actually have a process that's the right process. Like we're skipping ahead here.
It will break.
You guys have this model called the perfect P&L, which is, I think, from my outside perception, what you're like one of the core methodologies that you're known for. Translated to agency world, and it's probably this. It's still the same rough numbers, but there might be some tweaks to that model. Can you walk us through the perfect P&L?
Yeah. So the idea of perfect P&L is born out of a couple of things. I really enjoyed playing chess when I was younger, and I remember learning like how to position your pieces in the best possible way for success. And the likelihood of you achieving that is very low because you are actually reacting to someone else. But if you understood, where do I want my rook or where do I want my bishop or whatever, like to give them their best, their best effectiveness on the board, it's an important thing to understand. So I remember that. Then I read Profit First. Then I read a book called Simple Numbers, Big Profits, and realized like I feel like there's just a lack of a framework of what is good in this world. So I was again very self issue. I'm working with these clients. Perfect P&L came later, so I'm working with these clients. And I'm going, I don't even know whether they're doing well or not. Like I'm still trying to figure out whether that's a good profit margin or they're spending the right amount of money. And they're asking me, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, trying to figure that out. And so again, out of massive personal desire, I was like, I need to know what is good or bad. And so we started formulating this thing called the perfect P&L, which is essentially what the perfect business would look like. And again, it's a very generic term because every business is different, but it's just a framework of what the perfect business would look like and where you're spending your money. And then we identified that big thing I don't like about traditional accounting is there's just a random list of expenses in alphabetical order, which is even worse. Just random list of alphabetical order expenses in your P&L that kind of makes no sense. And actually, every now and then I have to look at one because we get one from someone, and I don't even know how to read it anymore. But it's confusing because the way I look at ours is just it got a uniqueness to it. And so we realized, okay, so what we actually want to be doing is we want to be identifying the key areas of the business, and we want to be measuring them so that we can manage them. Not just overall profitability. It's not enough. I need micro numbers. I need numbers less than 5, 10, 15% to manage so that I can manage them and get a good outcome. And so we identified what the key drivers were. And there are only 2 key drivers in every business. No matter what kind of business you are, there is a third if you're a manufacturing or a SaaS company, which is development or product, like building the product or manufacturing the product. But by and large, if you don't have that, there's only 2, and it's client acquisition and fulfillment. It's your ability to get a client and your ability to deliver. And those are the key drivers. That's the heartbeat of every business. We called it the golden ratio. That's where businesses thrive. And then the third one is overheads. Okay, so you have to have overheads, but they're the byproduct. How much you spend on rent, software, insurance, utilities, merchant fees, like it's all because of the other 2. Okay, so we don't let those be the drivers. We let those be the followers. And so the perfect P&L just simply states, okay, top line revenue, what percentage of your revenue are you spending on acquisition? What percentage of your revenue are you spending on fulfillment? What percentage of your revenue are you spending on overheads? And then what's your pre-tax profit? And in an ideal world, if you're an agency, you want to be spending about 10% on acquisition, about 45% on fulfillment, and about 15% on overheads. Get your 30% pre-tax profit number. Awesome number, really robust. I'll factor in some taxes. You've got a great net profit. That's the perfect P&L. Now, obviously, give or take percentage points here or there based on different nuances, but that's the blueprint high-level view of what the perfect P&L is.
Yep. That's awesome. That framework was really helpful as we were going through the Profit Accelerator to compare. And we have a very similar, we break everybody's pickup up for an agency into growth, delivery, and operations, which in your parlance, acquisition, fulfillment, and overhead. So super similar on that side, but even just putting dollars and cents to it. What does that mean from a comp structure perspective and from a retainer balance perspective? There's a lot of decisions, go back to earlier, that come out of how you structure because of that. You guys probably have looked at this. Do more clients come to you looking for bookkeeping help, for CFO help, or for tax help? And I would assume that's all.
Very, very seasonal. There's time of the year where every single person just needs tax help, and there's times of the year where they're not. It's pretty seasonal. I don't know what the split is. And the reality is, if you're looking for help with one, there's a high likelihood that you probably need help with the others.
Right.
Because they feed each other. If you had a really solid bookkeeping thing in place, yes, you may need some tax help, but it's normally easier to find because you probably connected to the guy who's doing your bookkeeping or the person who's doing your bookkeeping. So yeah, and it's a bit of a mix. Seasonality is big. And we try and just help people where they can. So if that's your focus, we're going to help you with that. And if we uncover anything else, hey, we'll see if we can help you there.
Right. That makes sense. I've got so many other things I could grill you on, but we're at time here. So I'm gonna let you go. But before we do, let's point people in our direction. CleverProfits.com is the site. Is there a better way, Adam, outside of just going to the site and booking a call through the site or reaching out through the site?
I mean, you could, my email is adam@cleverprofits.com. You can send me an email. You can see me on Facebook and just say what's up on WhatsApp, on Messenger, and I'll say what's up back, and we'll have a chat and see if we want to chat to you or not. Or, we don't have. It's funny. We've grown exponentially. We I would say got a fairly sized business, but we're pretty simple in the sales side. Got one guy, Jacob Goodson, who's our sales guy, and 90% of our work is referral. So we actually don't do any marketing, rarely. A little bit here or there with some videos and landing page, little things here or there. So we just chat to us. Just say what's up, and we'll say what's up. And if we can help, we can help. If we can't, we can't. Great to get connected. So keep it easy.
Awesome. Well, this has been really fun to do. We've enjoyed working with you and the team. I think it's an important resource for folks to know about. I've seen a lot of pop-ups in the outsourced CFO positioning world. Heard feedback on a bunch of different people. Remington Bagg was on the podcast recently. He gave Account Foley a shout out as another good firm. There's a handful of them, but we hear about a lot that are not a great experience, but been a great experience working with you guys. So I appreciate your time coming on, be willing to share, Adam. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and to your audience. Thanks for listening. Sorry if accounting's not always everyone's strong suit or enjoyment factor of listening to. We try to make it a little bit more exciting. I think we're young people trying to make a difference in the world. But yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for listening to the Agency Journey podcast. Visit agencyjourneyinsiders.com to join the podcast community and be sure to subscribe for future episodes.